going on, everybody? We're back again with another video, and in this video we'll be talking about the ideal home defense setup for pistols or handguns. So obviously there's a few factors that play into what you would consider an ideal home defense setup for pistols. Everybody has their own opinions on what's more important, what's least important. I've seen different, videos and people talking about their setups and what they would consider for home defense because of certain factors. And I just thought I'd put my own opinion out there and explain what I would consider the most ideal setup. And I will bring in a few examples that aren't ideal and explain why. So first of all, I have 3 examples of pistols on here that are ideal setups, and I'll explain to you why. And they're all different sizes and stuff, and I'll explain how that factors in. But first I'm going to go over the factors that I consider when I'm choosing a home defense pistol, right? And so the first one is the size of the pistol, which plays a big role because the smaller a gun is, the harder the harder it is to control, and the harder it is to be accurate. The bigger the handgun is, the easier it is to control, and the easier it is to be accurate. So that's a general rule. The second factor that plays is the ability to attach lights or accessories, so rails, having rails or anything like that. That obviously is important because you need to see, and I'll go into that more a little bit later. And then the third and final thing, in my opinion, that is a factor when it comes to choosing a home defense setup for a pistol is capacity. So magazine capacity is important, obviously, because it gives you more shots, gives you more chances, all that, and I'll get into that. So those are my three factors when it comes to choosing a home defense setup. And some people will say you need a suppressor, or you need a red dot, you need a barrel that makes you extremely accurate, you need a crazy good trigger, a light trigger. That's not what I don't follow that. I think the top 3, like I told you, the ability to mount lights, capacity, and the size of the gun are only things that really come into play. All that other shit is just extra.
As far as the calibers and the round that you should use for your home defense pistol setup, obviously it varies, and there's all types of rounds that you could use, but the way I would go about it is this: no less than 380 ACP. Don't do any of your 22s, don't do your 32 ACPs, don't do your 25 ACPs, anything like that. Don't do that. On the other side, I would say if you're going to choose a large handgun, I would say the maximum as far as power goes that I would do is a 357 Magnum 10mm-ish type round, so those two are like the maximum I would go. I wouldn't go with like 44 or especially 500 Magnum, no, because then when you get that high as far as the calibers and the power, you start running into issues where the recoil makes the guns not fun to shoot. And when the gun's not fun and you don't enjoy shooting it and you don't take it out, essentially when the gun's not fun to shoot, you won't take it out as often. And when you don't take it out as often to practice, you're not going to be as good with it. So that's the maximum I would go, and the minimum would be 380. So 380 is the minimum, and 10mm as far as semi-autos go, and 357 as far as revolvers go. That's the maximum I would go. So that's about it, though.
So now I'll explain. First, I'll explain you the guns I have here. So this firearm is my Glock 17 Gen 4. I've done a review on this firearm. You You can go check that out. This is my first gun. I love this thing. Shoots very well. Now this gun doesn't play the role of my home defense. I'll bring that one in soon, shortly, or pretty soon. I'm not trying to handle that one too much because it is loaded. But this is, I keep this in I keep a bag that I'll keep this in and take it with me. And so that's what this is, but I would have no problem using this as home defense. This firearm is my Glock 19. It's a Gen 3. This is my carry gun. Now I don't keep this light on here when I carry it. I don't use a light with carry, but I'm having this on for demonstration purposes. So this is my concealed carry gun right here, but this also will do good as home defense, and I'll explain to you in a little bit. And this one right here is my Beretta 92. My Beretta 92 A1. Now this was my home defense gun at one point. I just swapped it with my Glock 22, but this thing works just fine. The capacity is nice. So yeah, this is a really good one too. Now we'll go over each step in detail now. So the first one, which is going to be really important, just to start off with the home defense setup, right? Because if you don't do this correctly, it's a domino effect. It screws everything out down the line. So, which is the size of your pistol. Now, basically put it this way: you don't want to limit yourself if you do not have to. Okay. In home defense, you don't need to get a very small firearm like this. Now this is also my bodyguard. I carry this. I have one chambered, obviously, but don't trip. To all you safety Nazis, I'm not breaking any firearm safety rules, so stop getting on my case about that. But this is, look, if you could see that, compare this to this, you know, you don't want something like this, and I'll probably explain a little bit later on that, but you don't need to get something really small. Obviously, you know, you don't need to get something that's like competition grade where the barrel's like 7 inches long and whatever, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, you don't need to go that far with it, but why get something really small when you can get something big you can easily control, and that'll be more effective and easier to handle the recoil. So in my opinion, this is how I would look at it, right? If you are just getting strictly a home defense gun, and it's not a gun that you want to use for multiple things, go with something like a full size, you know, Glock is fine. I would also consider this a full size, because it is a Beretta 92 series. This holds, now typical 92s hold 15 rounds, but this one holds 17. It has 17 round mags. And it can hold 15 round mags too, but still, that's still a good capacity for a full size gun. This is 17 rounds for a Glock 17. But if you're getting strictly a home defense firearm, you're gonna want something like this, okay? It's gonna be easier to handle, you know what I mean? Make sure you understand that it's clear so you don't trip on me. I know the mag's loaded, but this is a defense gun. I'm not gonna sit here and unload the mag, you know, so. But strictly, you get good grip on the gun, and you can easily control this and be extremely accurate. So you want something like this if you're just going for only home defense strictly. Now, or something like these two, I should say. These two are great for that. Now, for a gun that is, like, let's say it's your first gun and you plan on possibly carrying it, concealed carry or whatever, then something like a Glock 19 or a gun of this size, this is a compact or anything like that, will be perfect. Because, I'll show you it's clear, because it's a medium-sized pistol. It holds a decent capacity. It holds 15 rounds, which is good. And a gun of this size, you know, it's pretty good. And it's also small enough to where you can carry no problem. I believe the difference between something like these two in size, it makes a difference on the carry aspect. When it comes to home defense, this works just as fine as that, as this. And yes, you're down 2 less rounds, but in my opinion, that's not the hugest deal. But if you're one of those people who like, yeah, I need all the rounds possible, you can put plus base plate extensions on here to make it higher capacity. You could actually, I'll actually show you right now with the Glock specifically, double stack. You can literally put a 17 round mag in it like this. Now you got effectively a Glock 17. You know what I'm saying? So this would be a great home defense firearm. It's not going to be as great as this. It's going to be a tiny bit. The capacity is lower, the gun's smaller, so it'll be a little bit snappier. But overall, you can do more with this. You can carry it easier, but you can also carry this. But so my suggestion would be this, right? For the size, I would say at least a medium size or compact. Now, obviously, that's going to vary between the manufacturers and what they consider, compact or whatever. But a gun that is around a Glock 19, just take a Glock 19 for example, is a good size compact, or even something like a G2C, like you've seen that review. That's a good compact gun to have. So I'll say at least a compact. I wouldn't go any smaller than a compact for a home defense gun. Now, I'm going to reiterate this. I'm not saying that a smaller gun is going to be, you're guaranteed to lose a fight, or you're not going to be able to do anything with that. No, I'm just saying you want something more just in case something more happens. You get, multiple intruders or whatever. So that's all it is. I'm not sitting here saying that you can't go out there with something like a revolver or something and it won't work. No, most cases you start shooting at the bad guys, they'll run, but you don't want to bet your life on that. Excuse me. Anyway, so that's the size and what I think about the size. At least medium size pistol, okay? Wherever you find that, at least medium size, and double stack. That's what a double stack gun typically. All right. Now, let's go on to factor number 2, which is lights. Okay. Now I'm gonna put this gun to the side. Actually, no, this plays a role. Never mind. Lights are very important, and they let you be able to see what you may or may not shoot at, right? They let you positively identify your target. And some people might buy a gun and they don't think about light. They're like, I'm good. I throw it in the drawer and I'm good. Well, what happens if you hear the bump in the night, and in the nighttime where it's dark and you need to be able to see? Now I understand, some people say, oh, just turn on a light switch. Obviously that'll be great. But what if you're not near a light switch? What if what if you don't have time for that? And some people also say, since you got your weapon light, and you point it, you're pointing a gun at somebody, you might point it at somebody you don't want to. Well, in my opinion, that's not a big deal as long as you don't shoot them if they don't need to be shot. Pointing a gun at somebody, as long as it's, if you're justified in doing it, if you hear some shit that's crazy or you're fear of your life, you're fine. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? So, that's not a big deal to me. Like, oh, you're pointing it at somebody. Okay, well, I thought I may have to use it, so that's fine with me. But the ability to put a light on the gun is great because, like I said, it lets you be able to see. Now, I'm not talking about lasers, but you can get like a light laser combo. My biggest thing is the light. I'm not a big fan of lasers. I'll probably do a video on that later on, but definitely the light is the most important thing because it helps you see, which is a very good thing. You want to see because you don't want to hear the bump in the night, right? Go out into your living room, kitchen, you hear something and you see a shadow or a silhouette or a figure and you start squeezing off rounds, and then it turns out to be your baby sister or your grandpa or your whoever you're living with, your roommate or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's you don't want something like that to happen at all. I'd much rather point a gun at my family member with having a light on it so I can see, and then just shooting at somebody who I can't see. And if it turns out to be a bad guy and you still can't see, they may be able to see you before you see them, or they might, start shooting randomly at you. And now it's just, it brings a lot of issues, right? A potential issues. So now I can say this, most guns, especially your polymer framed and, even your most larger guns nowadays are going to have rails. Like this right here is your Picatinny rail right here, for a Beretta. Now your Beretta 92 FS, your typical Berettas do not have this at all, but this is a 92A1, which is a little bit more upgraded. You can get like M9 A1s and M2 A2s, and I'm pretty sure I don't know which ones, but they'll come with rails, which allow you to put lights on them. And so this is another example. So I'll put that, I'll actually swap this light out for you so you can see. So let's check that off. And you just, and most lights and stuff are easy to put on. And there you go. See, now I know this is a small light for this gun, but honestly, a large light does make this gun kind of heavy, but it's not a big deal for home defense in my opinion. But now you have the ability to see, you know what I mean? So it is an absolute necessity when it comes to home defense to have a light. Now for concealed carry, I'm not big on that, but I'll probably do a video explaining that, another time. But now I will say this, a lot of older guns will come without lights. And also, remember when I said that you have a smaller gun, it could be a domino effect. The reason why I said that is because your smaller guns tend to not have rails. Okay, so for an example, like I showed you, my Bodyguard does not have a rail. You got something even bigger that's like a Glock 42 doesn't have a rail, a Glock 43 doesn't have a rail, or even a Glock 26. But for the 26, I know you can get like like an aftermarket thing to put on it so that you can put a light, but that's extra. So excuse me, I wouldn't, as long as the firearm you are buying for home defense is easy, has a rail, something like that, where you can put a light on it, that is a necessity in my opinion. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because you need to be able to see what you're shooting at or what you might not need to shoot at, right? You got to positively identify the threat or the target. And that's a gun safety rule. Know your target and what's beyond it, and know your target means what it says. Know what your target is. Don't sit here and just shoot at something and you're just like, oh, I'm just worried about what's beyond it or around it. No, you want to know your target. So that's pretty much it on the lights. And this is another thing I want to bring up. Some people think that you need to get expensive lights. Like, these aren't expensive, but for somebody who's just getting into the gun world, $100 plus light is not cheap at all. Like, they're looking at that like, whoa, like I can just go buy one for like cheaper. And this is what I'll say. I'll highly recommend that you get something that's more quality, like this Streamlight TLR1, or like your Surefires, or even I've had good luck with these Olights, and I know a lot of people don't like, or I know some people don't like these, but I mean, I've not had an issue with them, and I have 2 of them. So if you're an Olight hater, well, that's on you, but I'm just giving advice here to the new people. I've never had problems with these. Now, these things aren't cheap, these things are about the same as this, maybe more depending, but I would highly recommend like decent lights like these, right, or more. But if you can't and don't have the money at the moment, or you don't feel like getting these at the moment, that's fine. Go get you a cheap light from like Amazon or something that's like 40 bucks or whatever. And I know it's not the ideal light, but listen, I'm gonna tell you this right now. It's better to have a budget Amazon light that at least illuminates what you're pointing at than to not have a light at all. You know what I'm saying? So just go get you a budget Amazon light. I did that. I ended up getting a budget Amazon light, and it works just fine. It was a cheapo Amazon light that costed me like $30, you know, and it did the job. It illuminated, you know, dark spaces enough so I can see. And I'm glad I had it. I felt more comfortable with that light than not having a light at all. So don't listen to these people that are like, go grab you a $200 light and, you know, go grab the Surefire, the most expensive. No. While yes, if you can afford to get something like a Streamlight or even an Olight or like something like that, I would do it because they're more quality and they'll hold up longer than something like an Amazon light. But it's better to have some light rather than no light. That's just what I think, you know. And if anyone wants to argue me on that, okay, that's fine. But anyway, so that's it on the light factor. You need to be able to put lights on your gun. That's one of the most important things on a home defense pistol setup because you need to see. So that's it. Now, the third factor is obviously magazine capacity. Okay, so you need to be able to put multiple shots on target without there being any issue. And the issue with having a lower capacity gun is a few things. One is less chances to hit your target, right? Because in most cases, when you have to use your firearm in defense, you're going to be highly stressed and everything on your body's, every nerve and everything's going to be just going crazy. It's going to be chaotic. And in a lot of cases, humans don't make the best decisions in that cases. And not even about best decisions, but your accuracy will plummet. It's not going to be like you're going to be crazy accurate. You know what I mean? So the more chances you have in a pistol to hit your target, the better it is. Okay, now show you this is a Glock 17 mag that holds 17 rounds of 9mm. You get 17 chances to hit your target. And not to mention, in most cases I've seen, it takes multiple rounds from pistols to stop a threat. So I've seen guys take 10 plus rounds to the chest, you know what I'm saying? And so if you have something that's less, you're not going to get that chance, and you might not even be that effective, you know? Now, yes, of course, you know, shooting period, in a lot of cases when there's intruders, will make them run like cowards, like the cowards they are, obviously, right? But don't bet your life on that, because there are cases where motherfuckers get into shootouts and they end up dying because of one thing or another, because, you know, whatever it is. But point being, capacity is a great thing, and it's something that you can't go wrong with capacity. I'm telling you this now. Now, I understand when it comes to, like, you know, you get your guns that have, you know, your 17, 15, then you got, like, you know, 12, 10, 7, you know, in my opinion, the minimum capacity for me personally for a home defense gun, and this is the bare minimum I would go if I had to, right? Now remember, don't limit yourself if you don't need to, but if for some reason you needed a smaller gun for concealed carry, and concealed carry was the primary thing that you are focused on, 10 round capacity is literally my minimum. Okay, I don't have a problem with using a gun that holds 10 rounds. That's the minimum though. I'm not going any less than that. Okay, you know, and you got guns like the Glock 43X, which is 10 rounds, but then you got like a Glock 26, which is 10 rounds. I don't have a problem with 10 round capacity at all, but that's the bare minimum that I would personally do, like use, be comfortable with. And like I said, I'm not limiting myself, so you're not going to see me for the most part with a gun that's 10 rounds, you know, as a main home defense gun. But if let's say, you know, my guns were all getting fixed or something, I didn't have all my home defense guns with me at the moment, but I did have like a Glock 26 or whatever with 10 rounds, or any gun that's in 10 rounds, I would not have a problem with having that for home defense, just period. Excuse me. So while that being my minimum, I don't necessarily have a maximum. Now, I will say this. For something like this, which this typically, this is a 31 round mag, but they typically come with a +2 base plate. I took it off of here and put it on one of my Glock 17 mags. So this is 31 rounds, but a 30+ round extended magazine like this, if it's made by like Glock, and if you have one that works well and you tested it, it works, I would not have a problem with having this as a magazine to use. So I'll show you. While I'm not the biggest fan of stick mags, like I don't use them for defense, to be honest with you, but something like this would work because you get extra capacity, which, like I said, it won't hurt. Now, this obviously makes the gun, you know, the profile bigger, right? So this might be harder to put in certain drawers. This might be harder to put in certain like smaller safes. Like I have a small safe that this would not fit in like this. So you could either keep this in the gun, right, which is fine because you got 31 rounds of 9mm, which is awesome. Or you can keep this on the side but have it fully loaded and have like a standard mag in it, and then you could use that as like a backup or something. But yeah, this I would recommend if you like these. I don't personally use these for home defense, but I would if I had to. I'm a standard mag kind of guy. I don't go for the extenders like that. But you can use this in obviously a Glock 19 as well. See, it looks okay. But I'm not the biggest fan of these. So, but these definitely could play a role in your defense, home defense setup right here. So, but anyway, yeah. So like I said, there's no maximum amount of rounds for me. But like I said, I go with standard capacity mags when it comes to. So I hover around, obviously 10 is my lowest, and then I hover around, 17, 18, 19, 20, around there, versus your standard mags. One thing you got to be careful with capacity, because some people might do this, right? They'll get a Glock 19, they'll get a 15 round mag and a Glock 19. They'll buy an aftermarket base plate that's like a +5 extension, so it's 20 rounds, and then they have malfunctions and they're wondering why they have malfunctions. I'm gonna say off rip, your home defense gun should not be Gucci'd out. It should not have all these damn bells and whistles as far as like internals and in your mags and stuff. I would keep them as standard as you can, and Glock makes extended base plates that +2 that work just fine, and I've tested them. I have no problems with them, and without putting like stronger springs. And some people think that you need to do that with them, but with those, I've never had an issue with those magazines. But do the best you can to keep it stock, because you don't want to screw with the reliability. That's one thing you do not want. Okay, and that's an obvious factor as well. Like I shouldn't have to mention that reliability is a factor. Because why would you want a firearm for defense that's unreliable? So, but obviously that's a factor too, but that's not the main three. Obviously you want to start with a reliable gun, but then you get like your options of reliable guns, and then you choose from there based on the three factors. But, anyway, capacity is what you want. And like I said, I'm not saying that you can have a lower capacity gun and it not work. Of course it could work. I've seen cases where it works, but I personally wouldn't take that risk of having a lower, like I'm talking lower than 10 rounds. I wouldn't do that. That's more carry, and depending on what gun it is, it might not be carry gun. But what else can I say about capacity? I think that's about it. Double stack is what you want to aim for, but if you get like your staggered stack and stuff, that's like 10 rounds of a gun that's smaller. But I wouldn't get a small gun like that. I would get something a little bit bigger like these. Now, I'm gonna bring you a couple of examples. I already showed you one that are not great for home defense when it comes to pistols, okay, or handguns. Now, or I'll give you 3 examples. One of them I do not currently own at the moment, but we'll talk about it. So, the first example, since I already showed it, it's going to be your pocket 380s or your pocket pistol, something like this big. Now, once again, this thing is chambered, but I'm not breaking any safety rules and everything's good. So don't do safety Nazis, need to chill out, okay? But anyway, pocket pistols like this are not good at all for home defense because of a couple of reasons, right? One, the size. This thing is tiny. My hands aren't even that like big. That's average, and my hand's bigger than this thing, essentially, right? It's like, and so that means the recoil is going to be snappy, even in 380. Also, the accuracy is going to be extremely low. This gun is not a gun that you want to shoot at any far distance. This is a very close range firearm. Now, obviously, the 380 round will do its job, but this thing is just not where it's at. And also, another component that it misses out on is the ability to mount lights. Now, I don't know if they have any aftermarket things that will make it to where you add a light. I doubt it, because this is a pocket pistol, not a home defense gun. So it has no ability to hold a light or accept a light. It has 6 rounds of 387, 6 plus 1, 7, 1 in chamber, 6 in the mag, which is not great. So this is just a terrible choice for home defense. And I know some women are like, oh, this is cute, this fits my hand so good, it's so cute, it's tiny. Yeah, it's cute until you pull that damn trigger and you're like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I just think this is terrible. This is only a pocket gun, a pocket carry gun. This is obviously my pocket holster, and I keep it in here like this, and that's how I carry it. So I'm put this away now. So that's a bad example. Any pocket 380 or pocket pistol, period. Any of your like 25 ACP mouse guns or anything like that, those are really bad for home defense. For a lot those reasons, I say they don't meet the criteria, the factors that we said, they don't meet it at all anyway. So now this is one that will probably make some people mad, right? Which is the 1911. Okay, now 1911s, don't get me wrong, they're awesome firearms. There is a reason that I bought this thing, and this thing isn't necessarily cheap. So I spent money on this thing. So I would not use a 1911 for home defense, because it only fulfills one of the criteria, which is the size. The size is awesome, right? Excuse me. Now, for carry, you wouldn't want this, but for the home defense, this is a perfect size gun, right? But the other two categories, it completely fails in. Okay, so one, most 1911s do not have a light, a rail. Now you can get some that have rails, okay? They got them out there, but a lot of them don't, right? Like this is a standard 1911, so a standard 1911 you won't. But let's say if you had one with a light rail, that's better. But the other category, which it lacks on, which a 1911 is not going to really be better on, you would need a 2011, is capacity. Now, this is a 7-round mag. You can get 8-rounders. Now, the only way I would say a 1911 is acceptable for home defense is if you have a 10-round mag, and I know they make those, and if it's reliable. I've never tested the 10-round mags. I think Wilson Combat makes some. I think maybe like Chip McCormick makes some. But if you have reliable 10-round mags on a 1911, then yes, it becomes acceptable if it has a light, a rail for a light. If you have this kind of setup with a 10-round mag, no, because it does not have that light acceptability. So the only way a 1911 is going to be acceptable, in my opinion, is if it has a 10-round mag that's reliable and it has a rail for lights and stuff. So that's it. But for the most part, 1911s as a whole, this is what you're going to get, and it's not good for home defense. And even if it has what I just said, the light rail and the 10-round mag, it's still lacking compared to something like a Glock 19, a Glock 17. It's, you know what I mean? It's going to be, if it is acceptable, but it's on the lower end. And like I said, you shouldn't limit yourself if you don't have to. So even if this was in the acceptable configuration, I would not be quick to make this your home defense gun. Now, if you love 1911s and that's what you like, all right, okay, do you? But there are better options than this, a lot better options. So, but then the third gun that I'm gonna say is probably or no, probably it's not the best for home defense, is revolvers. The most that you can get out of a revolver generally is going to be 8 shots, and that's pushing it. Most revolvers are going to be 6 to 5 shot, depending on how big it is. But 6 shot is your typical. Now, I don't have a revolver to show you, but everybody knows what a revolver is. They're very lacking on the capacity. You typically don't see them with rails, while I'm pretty sure you can get them with rails. Overall, they're just not good. Especially a small one, but they're not going to have the capacity. That's the one thing they're going to lack on, and you're not going to be able to get like a 10-round revolver, I don't think. So revolvers are just not going to be the best at that. Now, like I said, they'll do the job better than nothing, but for the most part, you're going to want something better, bigger, or not necessarily bigger, but better in all those different categories that I mentioned. So those are, the guns that I think just really suck at it. So anything with really low capacity, and I understand people love their 1911s, but I don't care. You can love your 1911s all you want to. I love 1911s as well, but I have better options for defense. So, but that's it. That's it on the guns that. Those are a couple examples of guns that you don't really want for home defense. And then you can get guns like the like little sweet spot guns, like a G2C that's a small enough gun that you can conceal it, but it's big enough you can get a full grip, and it holds 12 rounds. So that's a good gun to have for home defense. But yeah, so we'll recap here. Obviously, the criteria that I look for, or that I go by when I look for home defense pistols, is the size of the gun. Now, reliability is that's actually number one, but I should not have to say that, okay? I should not have to sit here and say you need a gun that's going to work, because self-explanatory. So, but number 1 is the size of the gun, right? You want a medium, at least a medium, but a large frame gun works the best, but medium is just fine too. You want a gun that can accept lights, right? It has a rail for a light, right? And then you also want the gun to have a high capacity. So 17 round 9mm, and I don't care what caliber, okay? I don't care what round your gun shoots, as long as it's a decent capacity. That's all I'm saying. And the thing about home defense pistols is, as long as the gun, like the size, you can get a smaller gun with a bigger mag, and that's fine with me, you know what I mean? Because the capacity is really important, but it's also the size of the gun helps with controllability. But anyway, so those are the 3, that's the criteria I go by when I choose my home defense. If you do anything different, just let me know in the comments below. If you disagree with anything I say, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, some people go too far with it, and they're like, you need a red dot, you need a suppressor, you need the threaded barrel, so so you can accept the suppressor, you need suppressor height, night sights, you need extended this, extended that, fucking a trigger that's one ounce trigger pull. You don't need all of that bullshit, man. Just get you a light, get you a decent sized pistol, and then make sure it's decent capacity, and then that's all you need, and you're good to go. Okay, it don't matter what brand it is. It don't have to be Glock. It can be like HK. It could be Smith & Wesson M&Ps. It could be like SD9s. It could be your G2C Tauruses. It could be any of that stuff, as long as it's not a 320, because you don't want that gun to end up killing you in your sleep, and then they making it seem like it was suicide. But now I'm playing around. But anyway, that's the video, y'all. I know it's a bit of a longer video, but it's a lot to go over, and it's very important. And I just wanted to give you guys the way I go about it, and it's a decent way to decide. And actually, before I go, I want to show you my active home defense pistol at the moment. Now, I didn't bring this out much because I have a round chambered, but this is my Glock 22. It's 40 Smith & Wesson, as you can see. Got 15 rounds in the mag. I got 1 in the chamber right now. And I got a light, as you can see. So, and it's an Olight, and it works just fine for me. If you don't like Olight, I guess put it in the comments below why and your experiences, but this thing works just fine for me. This is obviously, 40 Smith & Wesson, if I didn't say that already. And it's 15 rounds, or I got 16 in here, but anyway, yep, that's my home defense pistol. But yeah, that's it for the video, y'all. I'll see y'all in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to Mark's channel. Don't forget to subscribe to Centerfire Podcast, because that's great content over there. I'll put all the ads and the links in the description below. Like the video if you like it, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.